What's that?
Last week
Storm in Vancouver. Yeah, so I guess that's when I came. Hare Krishna, we're here now, so that's wonderful. Let us go for our invocational mantras for Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatyadesh Tarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai. Thank you very much. We'll turn to page 1 on the introduction of the Bhagavad Gita. And if you could repeat after me. Om Jnana Timirandasya
Om Jnana Timirandasya
Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance. And my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Hare Krishna. Our host Vaishnavi will let us know where we left off, and I think she's going to share the screen.
We'll start from 14.1, Maharaj.
Okay, we're starting chapter 14. Great. This is entitled The Three Modes of Material Nature. I'll take the shloka with the Sanskrit to the English translation, and then we will look to the purport being read by maybe a couple of people. All right. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Parang Bhuya Pravakshami Jnanam Jnanam Uttamam Yash Gyatva Munya Sarve Parang Siddhim Ito Gata. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, again I shall declare to you this supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all the sages have attained the supreme perfection. Hare Krishna. And the purport.
Gaurchandra Prabhu and your friend, you can, read.
From the 7th chapter to the end of the 12th chapter, Sri Krishna in detail reveals the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, the Lord himself is further enlightening Arjuna. If one understands this chapter through the process of philosophical speculation, he will come to an understanding of devotional service. In the 13th chapter, it was clearly explained that by humbly developing knowledge, one may possibly be free from material entanglement. It has also been explained that it is due to association with the modes of nature that the living entity is entangled in this material world.
Thank you so much, Gaurachandra.
Sunil,
Where is it?
now in this.
Now in this chapter, the Supreme Personality explains what those modes of nature are, how they act, how they bind, and how they give liberation. The knowledge explained in this chapter is proclaimed by the Supreme Lord to be superior to the knowledge given so far in other chapters. By understanding this knowledge, various great sages attained perfections and transferred to the spiritual world. The law now explains the same knowledge in a better way. The knowledge is far, far superior to all other processes of knowledge, thus far explained. And knowing this, many attain perfection. Thus, it is expected that one who understands this 14th chapter will attain perfection.
Wonderful.
Oh, thank you so much for that nice reading, Sunil. Yeah. So opening up this chapter, 1 out of 18, we're landing ourselves on the three modes of nature, three energies that very much influence us all the time. There's no break, to be honest with you. There is just not a pause even. There's just no opening. So if it's not one mode, it's another one of the other two. And if it's not that, then it could be a mixture of it. But definitely there's a kind of a competition that's going on. There's a kind of an arm wrestle and a fight for superiority. That's what it is. So in relation to this, when we look at the different times of the day, say like high noon is quite passionate for a lot of people all over the globe. Passion is at the optimum level. You've already put some time into your endeavors, oftentimes it's work or travel. The sun is at the zenith. It's usually at the hottest time. It's probably the best time also to have a nice lunch. The fire is on, and you can very easily, let's say, burn your calories at that time. Yeah. What are we doing right now? Can you you want to take it downstairs? Okay, that's good. Okay. Sorry, we just got some intruders here, but they're lovely intruders, Okay. All right. So, it's unbreakable, these modes of nature, and we're always captivated by one or the other. The only time you're free is when you're fully Krishna conscious, And what we're doing with our bhakti practices is working our way to free ourselves from their influence. That's what we're trying to do. Okay, just for openers, those are my comments at the moment. Anybody have any thoughts about these three modes of nature? I can say that it might have been in the past, we talked about the three modes being like the three primary colors. We have yellow, red, and blue. If you combine yellow and blue, you'll get a kind of a green. If you combine yellow and red, you'll get a kind of an orange. And so in this way, you get all the colorful spectrums that exist, all that's in a rainbow and even more. And so that's the situation. Always we're influenced by these modes. And we should study them, though, however, even though we may not consider them allies, but enemies. You actually have to study your enemies in order to have an advantage over them, right? Let's say you're trying to make a plan of attack against the enemy, and you know exactly what the enemy is doing at a particular place and time, and just what they're doing, where they are located even, so that you can make an attack, right? You have to understand their strategic positions and try to get in and understand their plan of attack. There's a lot of those kind of dynamics we find in the Mahabharata. The three modes of material nature are just kind of like always watching over us, and they're just ready to pounce on us. They're very fast. Have you noticed? And so we should just stand on guard and know how these modes operate so that we're better prepared in our defense. Hare Krishna. After all, it is a war. It is a war out there. And when we have tilak on the front of on our brow and a little bit at the bridge of the nose, that sometimes devotees call that war paint. Why? Because we are declaring war on Maya. apart from this little thing representing the lotus foot of Krishna, and this little leaf shape represents Tulsi. So at Tulsi's, with Tulsi, you honor Krishna at his lotus feet. Okay. But other people might translate this as war paint. And yes, we are at war with Maya. We are at war with the modes of material nature, but it doesn't mean you can't work with them. You have to learn to play the game with them, so to speak. Play the game with them. You can't walk away. You can't turn your back on them. Somehow or other, use them, channel them in Krishna's service. What do you think about that? Hare Krishna.
I have a question. Does one need to be in the mode of goodness before one takes up Krishna consciousness? Is that a prerequisite?
Yeah, oftentimes it's good. Even if you're not 100% in goodness, put yourself in a situation where the ambiance, the atmosphere is in the mode of goodness. And where you're in the right sangha, that would be the most critical situation. Be in the right company, at the right place, and under the best circumstances. Desha, Kala, Patra. Desha means place, Kala means time, Patra, circumstance. Yeah, so there, that's how you deal with it. And, be prepared. You have to think a little bit like a military person, a martial artist. Because if you don't, those three modes will be ready to make their ambush on you. So just always be on guard. Hare Krishna.
Yes, when we all require sleep. So when we sleep, aren't we in the mode of ignorance at that time?
It really depends on what are your thoughts. These habits of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, what mode they're in depends on what you project. I can eat a nice prasadam and I eat like a hog at the trough. And that means that I'm just very much in the mode of passion. But if I approach the prasadam with saying a prayer, with pranams before the food, and realize this is Krishna incarnate, then you're in a good mode. It's a good approach. So whatever you do, some or other, invite prayer. That's going to make a change. And in the mode of goodness, let's going back to your point about sleep. Sleep can be transcendentalized or Krishnaized through offering prayer before you go to sleep, right? So you want to try to purify the mode that you're in at the moment. Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
So one of your god sisters by name Dheera Mataji is asking a question in the via internet, saying,
Okay.
considering the modes of nature or carrying out our activities, that's according to Bhagavad Gita, how much choice or control do we have over our lives? Is it almost like 5%? Is that, I think that's her question.
Well, the big critical difference lies in the atmosphere that you're in again. Then you have a little better choice. Choice comes more from the perspective of being in the mode of goodness, because really the major feature of goodness, sattva guna, is that you're thoughtful. You take a little time before you make the next move or the next step. It's always good to be in the right atmosphere with devotees. Be in that sangha. Then somebody can say, well, then you'd have a choice anymore, because naturally the devotees are going to nudge you. Oh, come on, let's do this. Let's chant for a bit, So, in one way, there isn't often a choice because of habit or conditioning. And Prabhupada always uses that word conditioning. Conditioning is a very strong thing. And it's very hard to pull out of bad habits. Because when you're in a routine, you're stuck in the mud. So to get just, let's use that analogy, you're stuck in the mud. How do you get out? What's the best way if you're stuck in the mud? As kids, we used to go in the cornfields, and after a rain, we'd run through the cornfields, and we would just collect all this clay on our shoes, and we were worried, am I ever going? The more you kind of free yourself by your own attempt, the more you get stuck. So the way to get out of this is this being conditioned is be in the right company where people can lend a hand and pull their extended hand, throw a rope even for that matter, and pull you out. It takes getting help from your friends. So do we have choice? It depends a lot upon your conditioning. Conditioning can end by being in the right sangha. And when you're in the right sangha, you're going to be encouraged to chant, you're going to be encouraged to take prasadam, you're going to talk about the things that are really important to you, spiritually in particular. And you've got all the support. It's a support system that you need. So go for the support. Support means sangha. It's almost like there's no difference. Sangha, support. It's almost a synonym, right? Does that help a little bit in regards to the question?
I would hope so. I don't know. I don't have a way.
Okay. All right.
Maharaj,
Yes.
I have a question. The acharyas, they say that even bhakti, our practice of bhakti, can be influenced by the three gunas. Could you give an example of each? How somebody can do bhakti yoga in tamagun, etc.
Well, it is Kapila Dev who speaks to his mother, Devahuti, about executing devotional service in the three modes of material nature. Okay, most of you understand ashram life, living in the ashram. So, it's time to get up. As in the 10th canto, we have the scenario where the guru goes around and rings the bell in the ashram. So all the, brahmacharis and brahmacharis get up. And so you can get up, but maybe you're not the most enthusiastic. There's a little bit of lingering tamaguna, right? But you go through the motions, and it is definitely service. Because whether it comes in the form of your fingers on the beads or your hand on the diya to do puja, whatever the case may be, your consciousness might not be so evolved at that time. You're not so mature. So you're executing everything in the mode of goodness with some faith. If I just keep going at this, eventually I'll make a breakthrough, right? So that's in the mode of ignorance. You're doing some seva, but it's not the most, let's say, advanced form. Another practical example, let's see. I'm doing lots of service. I'm there to prove everybody I am the best. I'm punctual. Motivation is I'm going to be recognized as the best Vaishnava in the ashram. People are going to look at me. Or in the case of somebody, I'm the biggest donor, so I get the most mercy. You do meet people of that kind of caliber. So that could be an example of mode of passion, okay? And in the mode of goodness, it may be something along the same lines, looking for some kind of recognition, being good, following all the rules, taking all the steps, and doing it, but with a little bit of an intent. Like, I do want to go back to Godhead. I don't want to be in this material world again. So the drive is a good one, but it might not be so pure. So beyond these three modes, we want to rise above them. Are those some examples that you can, let's say, play with? Go to Chandra Prabhu. If we do things begrudgingly, but devotionally, it just means you won't get the best results. but at least you're making an effort. And Krishna recognizes effort. Chapter 2, Nehabi Kramanashasti, Pratyabaya Navidyate, Swalpamapyasha Dharmasha, Trayate Mahato Bayat. Anybody who makes a little endeavor on this path, it gets protection. Protection from what? Ultimately, samsara, the cycle of birth and death. So go for making the effort, even if your heart is not pure, because it's the best course to take. There isn't anything better. When you look around, I look around, I live in the temple. Do I have any options out there? No. There's nothing that compares to leading a life of devotion. Does that help, Prabhu?
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, so she wrote yes, the answer helped her. So
Okay, fantastic. Good. Any other areas that you, Prabhu, would like to cover? Okay, we can certainly go to the.
Maharaj, one more question. That verse you quoted from second chapter, what is that verse again?
Nahabi Krama.
Okay, thank you.
Neha. Nahabi and then B-A and the Krama.
Thank you.
Chapter 2.
Thank
It's
you.
a good one. It's a verse that gives a lot of hope to a devotee. It's one of those verses that makes you feel like, I do have a chance. I do have a chance. Krishna gives me a second chance, third chance, fourth chance, as long as you approach him with some sincerity.
Sandamini.
Let's give another example of doing something in mode of ignorance, but might be considered devotional service. The Prabhupada gives this example of an alcoholic. He drinks the liquor. Before he drinks it, this is Rasoham Upsakondiya. This liquor is the taste of Krishna. All right. So you're definitely in a lower mode, but you're thinking this taste, which I'm liking, is the taste of Krishna. So gradually you will evolve and you'll, hopefully develop a disdain for the liquor, the bottle, but you have to start somewhere. You have to start somewhere. And for an alcoholic, that's where you start. He likes the liquor. Said, this is my Krishna. I remember being on the street, it was Parliament Street in Toronto. We were off for a little kirtan party. And one guy holds up his beer very proudly. This is my religion. This is my God. Yeah. So, but that can change. Valmiki wrote the Ramayana, and he got a blessing from Narada Muni, a mantra to chant. And the mantra was Mara, Mara, Mara. He went Mara, 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 Mara. So Mara turned into Rama. So his activity of, let's say, something very vile like murder turned into the life force. And so be ready for transition. But the transition or the change starts with you. I want to do better. I want to be spiritual. I don't want to be mundane. Nothing works on that level. Nothing. All right. Anything else?
Sandamini has her hands up.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranams, all glories to the Prabhupada, all glories to
Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. It's so nice to see you, Maharaj. I have a question. Maybe I'm in the lower mode here. Please correct me if I'm, help me. I don't think about going back to Godhead. I just want to serve you, Maharaj, and serve devotees. And the thought doesn't come to me. Am I in the mode of ignorance at that point, or because people say we want to go back to Godhead, but that thought when it doesn't strike. I just want to listen to your instructions, serve the devotees.
Mm-hmm.
Am I in the lower mode, Maharaj?
Yeah, some people have that kind of motivation. I want to get free of my miseries. I don't want them anymore. Therefore, I'm going to execute bhakti. It is a drive. It is a way to go, but it's not the highest level. The highest level of devotion is where God, do with me what you want. Like in the Ramayana said, my Lord, from this day on, I am yours. From this day on, that mood of surrender, submission is it. So if you have any other motivation, it is, it's not to be ruled out. It shouldn't be dismissed. It is, again, a start for some people. So if you're content, when I mean you, Sandamini, or anybody else, says, I'll do whatever you want, my Lord, then this is a really good headspace to be in. It really is not a bad place to be. If we are really trying to alleviate problems of life, it might be a little more selfishly driven, but if you can get to the point where Krishna, whatever, if you want, take that stance, it's not a bad approach. In fact, a lot of people pray and they ask God for help. Help me with my exams. Help me to find the right chick, whatever. You know, and they're, let's say, selfishly motivated. But if it goes more along the lines of the spirit of the Maha Mantra, my Lord, I'm here to serve you. What is it you like? What is it you want of me? This is a higher stage. It's a higher stage. And it definitely is, it's within the realm of Vishuddha Sattva, the mode of pure goodness. Right? Prayer is a medium which can really help us, depending on your motive. Some people pray for the dissolution of some devotee that they don't like. That's a bully bhakta, you know. There's a bully bhakta over there, always getting on my case, you know. Krishna, please eliminate that person. Okay. It's selfishly driven, right? That's neophyte consciousness, though. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for this nectar. Thank you.
Yes. So you don't have to be necessarily thinking so much about where I will be, but where am I now? And what am I doing in my service to Krishna now? In other words, if I'm thinking, I want to get out of this material world, it stinks, it's rotten, I want liberation now, it's a little bit selfishly motivated. If our drive is, I want to go to the spiritual world because I know I'll see him all the time, 24/7. But here in this world, I can't seem to see him. There's so many distractions. There's so much in the way. All right. Shall we go to the next verse? We'll see, senoritas.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure, Maharaj.
All right. Yes. Give us a little station break. Well, I was suggesting earlier on, can't we just bring it all downstairs?
Okay.
So you got 2 or 3 people, bring it all down and sort it out down there.
Okay, sure. That's a good
Okay.
idea.
Okay, back on track here. We're going to the next slogan. Okay. So we've got, I think we can get 4 people to read. One, the verse, the translation, another one starting with the purport, first paragraph, and then the second paragraph can be shared by 2 people. All right.
Okay, Manasi Ganga, you want to start, please? And then Dharma Prabhu and then Adikarta and Anutama, please.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
They were accepted in the beginning.
Idam jnanam upasritya mama sadarmyam agata sargepi nopajayante pralayena vyatanti cha. By becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain to the transcendental nature like my own. Thus established, one is not born at the time of creation or disturbed at the time of dissolution.
Purport. After acquiring perfect transcendental knowledge, one acquires qualitative equality with Supreme Personality of Godhead, becoming free from the repetition of birth and death. One does not, however, lose his identity as an individual soul. It is understood from Vedic literature that the liberated souls who have reached the transcendental planets of the spiritual sky always look to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, being engaged in his transcendental loving service. So, even after liberation, the devotees do not lose their individual identities.
Hi, Hare Krishna. Next person, and we can break this up in two.
Adhikata. Go, Uday, go, please.
Generally, in the material world, whatever knowledge we get is contaminated by the three modes of material nature. Knowledge which is not contaminated by the three modes of nature is called transcendental knowledge. As soon as one is situated in that transcendental knowledge, he is on the same platform as the Supreme Person. Those who have no knowledge of the spiritual sky hold that after being freed from the material activities of the material form, this spiritual identity becomes formless without any vigor, variegatedness. However, just as there is material variegatedness in this world, in the spiritual world, there is also variegatedness.
Okay, great.
Those in ignorance of this think that spiritual existence is opposed to material variety, but actually in the spiritual sky one attains a spiritual form. There are spiritual activities and the spiritual situation is called devotional life. That atmosphere is said to be uncontaminated and there one is equal in quality with the Supreme Lord. To obtain such knowledge, one must develop all spiritual qualities. One who thus develops the spiritual qualities is not affected either by the creation or by the destruction of the material world.
Great. Fantastic. Yes, great. Thank you very much for the reading, Prabhus. I will seek any comments that are coming from your end so that we can talk about it.
Maharaj, I was just going to mention that in the translation, Srila Prabhupada mentions that one can attain to the transcendental nature like my own. And I could see how impersonalists may misconstrue that and think that one can attain, being me. But Prabhupada clarifies that point to say that attaining the transcendental nature like my own.
Yes. A lot of people like that word like. Okay, yeah, we will not become God, but we can become God-like, or we become godly. So there's a difference. Mhm. Prabhupada loves to talk about, he's like very anti-merging. He's an anti-merging guru. And in one sense, he's an anti-God. Those who declare themselves to be God, he's anti that. Purity will only come from the stage of service. wanting to serve others. And when you are serving others selflessly, then you are in the spiritual world, even though you might be in the mundane existence. We are supposed to create a spiritual atmosphere in our homes, in our temples, and even maybe in the workplace. I've had people that I've talked to, and they always carry themselves in a very saintly way. That door will close on its own. You don't have to force it. There's some people who carry themselves so much in goodness that it changes the atmosphere. And people look, your co-workers will look up to that person. Looks like you got your life together, eh? You know, how do you do it? What makes you click? How can I get a piece of you? Those are the thoughts that arise in people's minds. So naturally, people gravitate to those kind of individuals who have some inner strength because they want it. They recognize that as the most powerful form of existence, a strong person, strong in body, mind, and spirit. I know one of our devotees in Cleveland, you know, she works in a facility where it's mostly men, younger to her, and they come to her for kind of advice just because she's got her feet on the ground and her head is not in the clouds, if you understand what I'm saying. Like practical people are spiritual, but practical at the same time. You know, one of the nicest features of Prabhupada, I'll just tell you right now, it's not all the necessarily the sort of mystical things that people may have caught him doing. It's not even some of the things he says. Well, one of the most beautiful features of our dear Prabhupada is that he was practical in devotional service. You know, he was practical, pragmatic Prabhupada. And that's why we love him so much. Because he taught us to assimilate the philosophy, which sometimes tends to be contradictory. And it's only contradictory because you have to see everything through the angle of Sattvagun, Rajagun, or Tamagun. But when he comes across as someone who's saying, let's be practical here. Let's be spiritual and practical at the same time. Is it possible that you can do that? Can you put them in the same bag? Is it a nice trail mix? And the answer is yes. And what directive he may give to one person may be contradictory to what he gave to another one. And that's in the details. So we devotees have to be really careful about absolute statements. Prabhupada said this. Yeah, but he said it under a certain context. Don't misconstrue it. Don't take it out of one reality and throw it into another reality. And, you know, kind of like basically say, it's the rule, the policy for all, on all circumstances, over all people. Yeah, so that to me is the nicest thing about Prabhupada. He could take the essence of something and he could, you know, let's say, assimilate it and project something out there and make it very spiritual and be very practical at the same time. Even Arjuna, he was trying to be mystical. Oh, I can't do this. And Krishna's basically saying, come on, let's be practical here, man. Let's be practical. These people already insulted you over and over again. Your wife, they took your land, they burned your house, they tried to poison you. Let's not be goody two-shoes here. Have you ever heard that saying before? Goody two-shoes. You can look it up with the origins of it. I don't know. Goody two-shoes. He's just saying, let's be practical. Krishna already made an attempt to be practical, to try to say, listen, it's not going to be good. Gives a little bit of land, he's saying to Duryodhana. Just give a village to each of your cousins and everything will be cool, everything will be clean. That was a practical solution. But Duryodhana wouldn't hear of it. He was very insecure. And it's these three modes of nature that make you insecure. The more you resort to spiritual practices, the more you feel I'm able to swim in these modes without getting too affected by what they try to do to me. Yeah. Thank you, Bruce. Any more comments or questions, Bruce?
Maharaj, I have a question. Can you explain what serving others mean? Those words, and what
Well,
context?
that comes on different levels. Serving others means instead of thinking yourself, how do you take care of other people? It can take the form of philanthropic work. It can be that. I think it's chapter 12. We have to look at different levels of serving. So serving others means you spend a little less time on yourself and more on others. You learn detachment that way, isn't it? Let's look at a little child. A little child, like a baby, is quite selfish, to be honest with you. Everything is for themselves. And if they don't get what they want, they'll cry. How many times do babies cry in a day? When they don't get what they want, there's a little discomfort. But as we grow and mature, we have less of that. We're less selfish. We learn to share. Again, going back to babies. Some babies, they really like it. I was getting all the attention. Then my baby sister was born and everyone's thinking about them and I'm left out of the picture. It's because we're selfish. And the more we can get into that mode of doing something for others instead of myself, the closer you are in devotional service. Eventually, you may get to that stage of serving Krishna selflessly.
Up on that question as far as if someone wants me to carry the 12-pack beer case to their house, is that also called serving him?
Yes, because while you're doing that, you're having a chat with them. Hey, how's it going? Oh yeah, my name is Ananta Shesh. I just live up the street. I was a pharmaceutical person. Now I give all myself to bhakti, devotion. And they may ask the next question, well, that's all about. I've never heard of that before. Now you get it, you made a friend, over the beer. Start off with lifting some beer. Just cultivate that friendship. Let's look at another scenario. Let's say someone's struggling to bring their, like an older guy is, what do I call it? How does beer come? 6-pack? Well, I don't know. 12-pack. Does anybody know? You're helping an older man. And he said, well, thank you very much. And Hare Krishna. Have you ever tried those kind of things? They really work. Cultivate friendship, and then the magic will then spin off of that. I guarantee you. What do you think? Any other comments, Bruce? Have you tried? I know that I think Marta is that kind of person.
Maharaj, I have a question on that context. Like to serve Krishna, do we have to develop a relationship with Krishna too? And if it is,
well, usually service, let's give a mundane example. Two people that fall in love and it's all romance. It's like young puppy love in the beginning, right? But then after a while, and not so long, then it comes to a point where they have to help each other and maybe they're going to share space. She might say, I don't like your big chair that has to go, right? She might say that. I don't like your big leather chair, or leather looking chair. And then you'll have to think about that. You'll have to think about that. Shall I rid myself of that? Or, was it selfish for her to say that? Maybe it was. But it comes in the sharing. The real test comes in the sharing the space. Right. And so there has to be a lot of compromise. And then real love becomes established. Not the initial stuff. Not the time when Cupid is around. When Cupid is not around, that's when you're being tested. Then real love is demonstrated. I was very touched when my mother, she lost her leg because she had diabetes, and then she lost the second leg. It just went black. And then my dad carried her around, and it was so touching to see that he was in that service mode. And it was so like, and then I analyzed, this is real love.
But is that a selfless service?
Yes, why not?
Okay.
I mean, what is your option? Oh, we'll send you to a home. We'll send you to a home where you can be looked after. But that was an option in his mind. I'm the caretaker.
Okay.
We've gone through this for 40 years together. So from beginning to the end, my dad's mood was, let's finish the project. So that's very much acting in the mode of goodness and brings you close to God when you think about serving others.
So on the another context of the trail mix you just talked about, I want to ask you, like, being spiritual and pragmatic at the same time, is somebody has to be intelligent for that? And if so, then how we achieve it?
Okay, time, practice, training. Just like, say, if you go for the military, it takes training, and or you go for martial arts lessons from a guru. He'll tell you how to release strength, how to conserve strength. They'll tell you when to strike and when not to strike. In most cases, you don't strike. But if it calls for it, he hopes that you've learned enough, you've assimilated enough to understand now's the time to strike. Now's the time to hit it. Just like right now, I'm in the midst of, we're working on a drama. And, like if we had a real theater arts training course, well, when it comes time to do a play, somebody's a little trained, they say, oh, I know what to do. I've gone through all these lessons. I know how to stand. I know how to articulate, and I know how to be a little innovative in my presentation. So that's like a piece of cake, right? But in the beginning, I work with young people. What should I do? Should I stand here? Where should I? After a while, the blocking, it just all comes quite natural. So it becomes spontaneous, and that's what we want. But you have to start with practicing. And in our context of bhakti, it's called Vaidhi Bhakti. That means follow some rules and regulations, go through the practice of sadhana, and eventually everything just comes really natural. And so, like going back to the military training, when the enemy comes, when to strike, when not to strike, how many bullets to release, and all that kind of stuff. How close to get, how strong should be the aim, how far to stay away from the.
So it will become our habit.
Yes, it comes out of habit, out of training.
Yeah, okay.
Training has to be there. Even if we get basic training, like Krishna Consciousness 101, take it. If there's a course like that, for God's sake, take it. Because it answers all your questions. How to chant, what does tilak mean? All those things, all the basics, everything gets answered. And when Maya strikes and heavyweight says, I know what I have to do because I was told, chant Hare Krishna. And I was told maybe I should look up into this. If I have a lusty moment, look up at the sky, just look up at that clear blue sky. And then you come back down, look, oh, I feel so much better. Grab those beads, grab the chanting, all those things. So I want to apologize. I'm going to have to leave real early, but if we can, because I have to get on a Zoom call with somebody from California, and it has to be really quick. So if some of you could do a quick takeaways on this with 3 words or less, that would be so nice. Okay, Vaishnavi, let's get going.
Chandra Prabhu and Sunil.
Neha Bikram Anasusti. I still have a hope, although I'm a nonsense.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Next.
hope. So I think I will go with the word hope. Definitely, that will keep us going towards Krishna.
Yes, hope. Yes. Where there's no hope, there's no scope.
Dharma Prabhu.
Bhakti process in frees material bondage.
Mhm.
Dharma Prabhu.
Maharaj, my takeaway is take the help to pull from the mud.
Okay, thank you. Take help. Nice.
Use the 3 modes in my bhakti.
Okay, nice.
Raj Khanna Prabhu.
That's right.
Raj Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. A little endeavor acts like a torch when there's a total blackout.
I see. Very good. Nice.
Taini.
Yes, I mean.
Taini.
Surrender is Krishna.
Surrender to Krishna.
Anuttama Prabhu.
Please, guys,
Prabhupada,
just whip it up.
Prabhupada was practical.
Prabhupada is practical. Yes, yes, yes.
Arjuna. Sandamini.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, conscious of Krishna, cautious of Maya. Hare Krishna.
Yay. Love it.
Uday.
Spirituality and pragmatism can coexist and actually should coexist.
For me, and I have to remind myself not to be a bully bhakta.
Okay. All right. Anybody else we missed out on?
From the internet, the company / association is the best predictor of choices.
Yes, thank you.
And for me, it's the Neha Bikramana Shasti. Hope. Krishna gives hope.
Little endeavor. Okay, we've got a devotee here. You speak up, okay? Onkar.
Find joy in loving God just for the sake of love's sake.
Okay. Find joy in loving God.
Just for the sake of love's sake.
Okay, that's great. He's got more than 3 or 4 words, but we'll let him pass. Okay.
Not everybody. I'm sorry if I missed. Adhikata, did you say? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Maharaj.
We got one more person.
Okay,
One
okay.
more.
Okay,
Be practical and chant.
Okay.
very good.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to see you next. Well, when is next Thursday? What is next Thursday, by the way? What day of the week is it?
4th or 5th?
5th, Maharaj.
January 4th.
January 5th, I think.
Okay, that's the day I leave for Guyana, Trinidad. Let's be in touch with Vaishnavi. We have to figure that one out, okay?
Okay, Maharaj.
I'm flying out there. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Devyo Namo Namaha. Guru Maharaj, jai.
Namaste.